We're going to take a look at the essay questions for the first lecture test, chapter 1 and 2. So what I'm going to do, we're on the Moodle page right now. I'm just kind of showing you where I am. I'm on the Moodle page, and this things to know document is the one I'm going to pull up. And you can see down here are the possible essay questions. So these are the essay questions that we're going to answer in this hopefully short video. So the first one we're going to take a look at is, what is negative feedback? State all three components and describe each. So in order to answer that question, I'm going to go to the PowerPoint over chapter 1 and go to negative feedback. Negative feedback looks like it is going to be sitting in objective 5. That was when we talked about homeostasis. So I'm going to come down here to objective 5. I'll tell you about what page number or what area I'm in. This is the beginning of objective 5. And negative feedback, I'm sitting about slide 64-ish or so. And this gives us the definition of negative feedback. So when you're answering the question, what is negative feedback, the very first part, it's a mechanism that's going to maintain homeostasis. So that's really all you have to put for that part of the question. It's going to maintain homeostasis. Now, for the three components of negative feedback, that's going to be sensor, control center, and effector. The sensor detects the stimulus. The control center takes the information that's brought in and determines what to do with it. So it compares the reported value to the value of the normal range and sends a message to the effector. So that's what the control center does. And the effector is the part that causes the change to occur, basically putting you back to homeostasis. And I think I told y'all that this question right here, if you use those answers, remember, sensor was detecting the stimulus, the control center compares the incoming to the normal value, and then the effector causes the change, which will return the initial problem back to normal. If you use those as your descriptors for that, you'll be fine. So that is the answer to essay question number 1. So now let's take a look at the next essay question, which is, describe the structure of the atom, indicating the location of all subatomic particles and 2 characteristics of each particle. So what we're going to do, that was in chapter 2. So I'm going to pull up the chapter 2 notes over the atom. And that was going to be basically objective 2. So I'm going to come down here to objective 2. I'm about slide 9 right here. So describe the structure of the atom. I'm going to go a little bit further down. Here we go. So I'm going to be on slide 12 in this particular set of notes. So describe the structure of the atom. The atom is made up of an electron cloud and a nucleus. The location of all subatomic particles. The protons and neutrons are located in the nucleus, and the electrons are located in the electron cloud. So the protons and neutrons are located in the nucleus, and the electrons are located in the electron cloud. You also need to know 2 characteristics of each particle. So you need to know 2 characteristics of protons, neutrons, and electrons. So I'm going to take you to this page right here. We did this in class. So you would pick 2 things. You could either say the symbol, or you give them the symbol for each particle. You could say the location. Again, you already are saying that anyway, so that's really not going to be one for this one. Or you could tell me the charge of each particle, or you could tell me the mass, the relative mass of each particle. So you can't really tell me the location as far as the characteristics go, because I already asked you that question. I wanted to know where they were located. So in addition to location, you need to give me 2 extra pieces of information about each particle. So again, you could give me the symbol, you could give me the mass, you could give me the charge, you can give me the mass. So just pick 2 of these. So pick one out of that column, and that column. Pick 2 of those 3 to include. Okay, now the next one. The next essay question is describe the pH scale, label where acids and bases are found, and give an example, the chemical formula of each. And this is coming out of chapter 2. So let's come down here to pH, which is going to be in objective 10. There we go. It's going to be in objective 10. So the first one was describe the pH scale. Well, that didn't exactly do what I wanted it to do. Hang on, let me get back to pH. It kind of went somewhere else on me there. There we go. So I'm in the pH scale now, objective 10. So when you're describing the pH scale, that was the first part of the question, is describe the pH scale. The pH scale measures how acidic or basic a substance is, and it goes from 0 to 14. So that would be you describing the pH scale. Label where the acids and bases are found. The acids are on the low side of the pH scale, going from 0 up to 7. And then the bases on the pH scale, also known as alkaline, are going to go from the high end of the pH scale, 7 to 14. So acids are 0 to 7, bases are 7 to 14. And then give an example formula of each. So right here is the example formula for an acid. You can use hydrogen. It's going to start with hydrogen, and then X could be just any element, so it doesn't have to be anything specific. So if you're given this generic formula for an acid, that would be perfectly fine. The generic formula for a base, the X would come first. That could be anything. And then OH is going to be at the end. Hydroxide is going to be at the end. So if you just say XOH, that could be the general formula for a base. And that would be the answer to essay question number 3, if you get that one. The next essay question is going to be state the 3 polysaccharides discussed in class and state their function. What class of macromolecules do polysaccharides belong to, and what is their monomer? So let's talk about polysaccharides. This is going to be objective 11. So let's come down here to the carbohydrate part, okay? So again, what are polysaccharides? Polysaccharides are a type of carbohydrate. So that's why we're in the carbohydrate section. So when we're talking about the 3 polysaccharides discussed in class, these are disaccharides. That's not a polysaccharide. This slide right here is the one you need to know to answer this question. State the 3 polysaccharides. The 3 polysaccharides are starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Those are your 3 polysaccharides. What is their function? The function of starch is the storage form of glucose in plants. Folks, that whole component is the answer. If you just say storage form of glucose, but you don't tell me in plants, you're not going to get full credit for that. So I need that whole sentence. And I put sugar in parentheses because I need you to know glucose is sugar, okay? That's not necessarily part of the answer, but that was why I did that. Now, glycogen is also a storage, but it's a storage form of glucose. So storage form of glucose still, but in animals. Where is glycogen stored? It's stored in the liver and muscle cells of animals. You need to know all of that. And then cellulose, well, this has to do, it's not got anything to do with storage. This has to do with structure. So this is the component that makes up cell walls of plants. By the way, animals don't have cell walls. Plants have cell walls. The cell wall in the plant acts as the skeleton that animals have. So again, if we didn't have a skeleton, what would we look like? Little blobs rolling around on the floor. If plants didn't have cell walls, everything would be on the ground. This is what makes the trees erect. The skeleton in your body is what makes you erect. So the cell walls are the structure of plants, like skeleton is the structure of you. The cell walls in plants is made up of a polysaccharide, a bunch of sugars called cellulose. And the rest of that question is, what class of macromolecules do polysaccharides belong to? They belong to carbohydrates. So your four classes of macromolecules, you've got carbohydrates, you've got proteins, you've got lipids, and you've got nucleic acids. So polysaccharides belong to the carbohydrate class of macromolecules. And what is their monomer? Their monomer is sugar. All of these are little bitty sugar or glucose molecules. That is their building block. So this slide right here gives you everything you need to know to answer that specific essay question. And it's going to be around slide 129 is where I found that slide. Okay, question number 5, or possible essay question number 5. What is the general structure of a nucleotide? State the 2 nucleic acids. What is their polymer and how are they different? So let's go to the nucleic acid macromolecule. So this is going to be about slide 152. So state the general structure of a nucleotide. The general structure of a nucleotide is a sugar, phosphate, and base. Sugar, phosphate, and nitrogen-containing base. That is the answer to the first part of the question. State the 2 nucleic acids. So what are the 2 nucleic acids? I'm trying to figure out what slide they're on. Basically RNA and DNA. But I was looking to see if I had that. Oh, here we go. Well, if I had kept reading on the bottom of the slide. So I'm on the same slide. The 2 types of nucleic acids are DNA and RNA. So that's the rest of that question. And how are the nucleotides different for each of the nucleic acids? So the nucleotide for DNA is deoxyribose sugar, and it's made up of guanine, cytosine, adenine, and thymine. Yeah, it has the phosphate there. Whereas the RNA nucleotide is a ribose sugar and contains guanine, cytosine, adenine, and uracil. So the difference is the sugar, and the 4 bases are not the same. DNA has thymine as one of the bases, where RNA has uracil as one of the bases. The last question, the last possible question, state 4 classes of lipids and give a characteristic or function of each. So let's go to the lipid section of the macromolecules. We're going to be around slide 134. So the 4 classes of lipids. I've given you 5. You just have to pick 4 of these 5. You could say saturated fatty acids, unsaturated fatty acids, triglycerides, phospholipids. Those are 4. You don't have to talk to me about steroids. So you just pick 4 of these 5. Give a characteristic or function of each. So of the 4 that you pick, give a characteristic or function of each. So if you pick saturated fatty acids, you could say they're solid at room temperature, or you could say they're made of animal fat, or you could say they increase the risk of heart disease and stroke. If you picked unsaturated fatty acid, you could pick one of these 3 bullets. They're liquid at room temperature, or they're made of plant oils, or they're beneficial fats. If you picked triglycerides, you could say this is the storage form of fat in animals. If you picked phospholipid, you could say it's the major component of cell membranes and they're amphipathic. Or you could say they're made up of a glycerol, 2 fatty acids, and a phosphate if you wanted to get that technical with it. If you picked steroids, you could say steroids are a 4-ring structure. If you notice cholesterol, vitamin D, estrogen, testosterone, they're all made of a 4-ring structure. That's the basic structure of a steroid. So that's just all you'd have to say on the characteristic or function of those. So that is the answers to all of those possible essay questions.